Hey there. In this video, I'm going to give you a sneak peek at Notion automations. This is a paid feature of Notion. So if you use the free version of Notion, you might be wondering what the automations are all about. There is really limited availability to automations within the free version of Notion, but not full access. So you might be wondering what's up with the automations. So I'm just going to give you a little overview and a few practical examples of what you could use Notion automations for. So this would obviously allow you to automate things that would otherwise have to be done manually within the free version. So how you open the automations is clicking on the little lightning bolt here, and you just click on new automation. So you can name the automation here to whatever you want, and you can set up multiple automations, as many as you want, to trigger one thing or multiple things at once. You can choose the database that you want this automation to apply to. So when I click on this, it's applied to this whole database, but you can click on and choose any of the views. As you see, I've got multiple views and tabs here, so you can choose which one to apply the automation to. And when you click on, the first thing you do is click on add a trigger, and you have the option of clicking on when a page is added in general, so any page is added to this database, or if any property is edited, basically, is what it's going to say. So if anything's edited within the database, then you can tell it to do an automatic task. And then the other option is to obviously choose from the specific properties within this database. So I'll give you a few practical examples of this and common use cases. So one really common use case is when the status of something changes, someone is notified or someone is tagged so that they can review the task or just know it's done or take action on it in some way. So how you would do this is you would say status, just choose done. So when the status is marked as done here, you want to do this, add an action, oops, and you just go to the person property and then tag someone. So I'll just choose one of my my names and create. So now you see it right here as a setup automation. And when there's no one in the person property right now, but when I mark this as done, it'll just take a second and it will tag me. There we go. So then I'll get a notification about this. So that was automatically tagged when the status was marked as done. So let's try another use case. Another example of that actually is for like high priority stuff, very similar to status. If you mark things as high priority, like if something's really important, you want to tag someone, same sort of thing. When the selection of high priority is chosen, you can tell it to tag a specific person. So another common use case is when the status changes on something again, it inputs today's date. So this would most commonly be used with probably when the status is marked as done, it will auto input today's date. So you know the date it was completed, a task was completed. So very similar to this one, you would just add a trigger. And again, you can rename your automations here so they're easy to differentiate. So we'll say when the status again is marked as done as the trigger, you want to add an action, and we'll just go to the current completed date, yes, and say today. We just say, okay, when we mark this as done, insert the completed date as today. So I'm going to say this is now done, and we should see the completed date populate in there. There we go. April 11th. So perfect. So it's one less thing you have to do. So another example of this that's similar would be if you use a budget or financial tracker, you can have it input today's date whenever you input like a dollar amount. So say you have a number column and you're just inputting, your sales or an expense or something, you can have the date auto populate, so you don't have to worry about inputting whatever the date that you made that purchase or made that sale. So another common use example is creating a recurring task list of tasks, that is, or adding pages to another database. So I will show an example of this. So when you, for example, we add a task to this database, say there's going to be a bunch of like subtasks or to-dos under that task that have to be done. So what we would do is add a trigger and just say when a page is added to this database, because again, we've chosen this database up here. We want to add an action and we want to say add pages to this related database that we have called to-dos. So the to-dos, the smaller to-dos will be added to this database. And we're going to call the first one because again, these are going to be recurring, always happening. So it's going to be like the same list of to-dos. So they'll have the same name each time. They'll just be applied to different tasks. So this will be sample to-do number 1. And then you click done. And then we will want to make sure we add, oops, let me do that again. Add action, we want to add a page to, oh, that's what it was. Right, to do this first, so we want to add a page to our to-dos database. There we go. So that's where we say sample to-do number 1. Now we want to edit another property and we want to say, put in the relation so we know which task in this database it's related to. So you just say this page. So whatever task, you write on that row, this list of to-dos will be added or related to that task. And then we want to edit another property and put a due date in. So you can choose a date. You could say now, today, or pick a date. We'll just say today for now. Now, that's sample to do number 1 for any new task added to this database. What we want to do is click these 3 dots so we can duplicate it below and add our second sample to do items because there's going to be probably a list of to-dos for this task, right? And then we have the same relation and the same due date. So now I'm going to just duplicate it one more time. So we've got 3 sample to-dos, and then I'm just going to say done. So now when I'm going to add a new row here or page to this database, and I'm just going to call it new task. There we go. Now I'm going to go to our to-dos database, and here we go. These were automatically just added in right now, and yeah, and just called new task. So because that's what I called the new task in the other database. So that can be handy for creating just recurring, repeatable lists of to-dos. There we go. So I think and another example of this is, for example, setting up a meeting page in another meetings database for each time a task is added to this database. So if each time you add a task or project, you want to set up a meeting automatically, a similar thing can be done. You can add a date and all that stuff too. And one other thing that can be done too that's very popular is adding a Slack notification. So we'll just say if a page is added, for any trigger, here it is. So you can add an action of sending a Slack notification to whoever. So I don't have Slack set up right now, so I won't go through that. But I hope those examples helped you understand Notion automations a bit better.